Okay, good morning everyone. Today we are going to discuss about one topic in basic discourse analysis. The topic is types of discourse. Now, when you are listening to types of discourse, of course, you think some kinds, yeah, or some forms of discourse that you can mention. For example, um, news or speech or textbook and anything. But in these presentations, I want to explain about a very general types of discourse that we can divide into two. The first is written discourse and the second is spoken discourse. Now, when you are listening to spoken and written, of course you know that when we talk about spoken discourse is anything comes out from your mouth. When you talk to someone, when you deliver speech, or when you have a chit chat with someone, it means that you produce spoken discourse. What about written discourse? Written is anything you write, anything you produce using pen or pencil, or you type it in your laptop using a keyboard. It seems that these two types of discourse are very simple. When you talk about spoken written, we do this every day. But are you aware that these two types of discourse have some differences and some degrees of of use? Yeah, specifically when you talk about number of words, or we talk about grammatical, we talk about context and anything, they have differences. Now, let's see some differences according to Brian Partridge in his book written and published in 2006. Now, the first thing is grammatical intricacy and spoken discourse. What do you mean by grammatical intricacy? Grammatical intricacy, we'll talk about um, numbers of words, yeah, either function or content words, and we also talk about the complex grammatical use that is frequently found in writing. Yeah, so grammatical intricacy and spoken discourse. Um, the explanation is, or the definition is, or the statement is, writing is more structurally complex and elaborate than speech. It means that in writing, of course, you produce sentence in more structurally complex rather than in speech or rather than in spoken discourse. Writing will be more elaborate, yeah, because in writing, you can check, and you can when you find something wrong in your writing, you can modify, you can delete, and you can modify later. But it is not happening in speech or in spoken discourse. When you talk to someone, there is no time for you to modify, to correct, and you sometimes make a mistake, or make a mistake when you talk to someone using orally or spokenly. Now, the second one is lexical density. The written discourse tends to be lexically dense than spoken discourse. Dense is dense means has more number of words, more number of words, more complex. Let's see what we call the density in written discourse. The first is content words, and the second one is grammatical or function words. Content words refers to noun, verbs, adjective, and adverb that we call content words. And the second one's grammatical or function words refers to preposition, pronouns, and articles. I have mentioned just now that in writing or written discourse, we use words more density, and more structurally than spoken discourse. Let's see for the examples. Content words are written in italics. For example, if Casablanca divined true love for a generation of incurable romantics, it also divined the aesthetic possibilities of cinema for a generation of villain lovers. So let's see. We can produce this sentence only in written discourse, but it is sometimes quite difficult for you to produce this kind of sentence in a spoken one, in a spoken discourse, you know. So that's why we call written discourse is more complex, is more structurally complex, and is more density than a spoken one, you know. So that's the first difference. The second one is a nominalization. What we call a nominalization. Nominalization is sometimes we don't clearly mention the subject, like we sometimes use I, she, he, and etc. But the subject of the sentence would be gerund. We use verb with ing as a subject of the sentence. Yeah. So nominalizations, high levels of nominalization in written text. We frequently find nominalization or high level of nominalization in written text rather than in spoken. Nominalization is where actions and events are presented as nouns rather than as a verb. That's what I call just now, what I mentioned just now, that sometimes we use verb as nouns, noun rather than as verb, while the actors of the actions are eliminated, deleted, not mentioned in the text. Sometimes the actors of an action are eliminated, are not mentioned clearly, directly. Yeah. Let's have a look two examples of nominalization. The first one sentence is increasing taxes should be one of the best ways to overcome financial crisis in Indonesia. So let's see, increase is actually a verb, but in this case, in nominalized sentence, we use verb as a noun by adding ing at the end of the verb, increasing. So increase becomes increasing, verb becomes noun, and we can use it as a subject of the sentence. See, there should be an actor responsible for increasing the taxes. It is a person or institution that is given authority to do that action. But we couldn't find in this sentence who is the actor. The actor is not mentioned clearly, But increasing taxes should be one of the best ways to overcome financial crisis in Indonesia. There should be someone or individuals or institution that are responsible for the increase of taxes. The second one is the policies have been issued to tackle the crisis down. Let's have a look. The policies, there is no actors mentioned here, but there should be an actor responsible for issuing the policies. So this is what we call a passive sentence strategy. Passive sentence strategy. One of the strategy in nominalization is we use passive sentence. Okay. The first one is, we call it actor deletion strategy, and the second one is passive sentence strategy. We mainly found this kind of sentences of nominalization in written discourse, but not in spoken discourse. Another difference is explicitness. Writing is more explicit than speech. Explicit, the opposite of explicit is implicit. Explicit means clear, straightforward to the point, and we can directly find the meaning, of a word or sentence. It is in explicit form. So writing is more explicit than speech. Another issue is contextualization. Context means a setting or situation where the language is used. So writing is more decontextualized than speech. Yeah, it means that speech or spoken discourse is more contextualized. When someone is talking to another, we can identify the setting or the situation or the context where the communication is happening. But it will be different in written discourse. Sometimes written, when you write something, sometimes you do not consider the context. So it means today you write some things and other people will read your writing next week or next month or next year. So it is more decontextualized than speech or spoken discourse. When you speak, of course, there is a context surrounding, situating the communication that you have with others. Spontaneous nature of spoken discourse. A spoken discourse is more spontaneous. Speaking is disorganized and ungrammatical, while writing is organized and grammatical. When you speak, sometimes the organization of your sentence, of your paragraph, or your speech is disorganized. Disorganized. It is different from writing. Writing is more organized. Why? Because you have time to modify your sentences, to modify your paragraphs in writing, but not in speaking. Next, in speaking, you do repetition, hesitation, and redundancy, in spoken discourse. So sometimes when we talk to someone, we always repeat, the sentence. We always repeat the sentence in different way to make the meaning or the message clear to the people that we have in communication. Spoken discourse use much more repetition, hesitancy, and redundancy than written discourse because spoken is produced in real time, right? Speakers working out what they want to say at the same time they are saying it. Yeah, you do something when you are delivering a meaning or delivering a speech. Uses of pause and fillers such as to give time to the speakers to think what they want to say. So this is typical of a spoken discourse. You use what we call fillers, fillers. Because sometimes you think what you are going to say, so there is a pause, minutes or seconds, to pause to think what you are going to say, what you are going to talk about. To hold on the speaker's turn in conversation, sometimes you need to hold your speaking turn, when you talk. So you use and etc. Other differences between written discourse and verbal interaction, according to Cave 1982, writing takes longer than speaking. That's right, I think. That's correct. Writers do not have contact with readers. Yes, of course. So that's what I have just mentioned just now, that you can write something today, and you're writing your article, your journal, your textbook will be read by people next month or next year. So you don't have contact with your readers. So anybody can read your writing without having contact with you. Situation. Participants have shared situation in verbal interactions. Yes, that's correct. So when you have a spoken interaction with someone, of course you have shared situation because you are in the same situation. You are in the same context. You are in the same environment. You are in the same place. So that's what we call have shared situation in verbal interaction. Now, one form of language realization may have multiple functions at the same time. So sometimes when you produce one sentence, the sentence could be informative, but at the same time it could also be expressive or persuasive, conceal information, give instruction, and instill a feeling. So what does this mean? It means that when you produce a sentence, the function of the sentence is not only one. Sometimes the functions are two, have two functions or three functions. For example, I come to a class, or yeah, I come to a class, a classroom, and I feel that the temperature of the class is quite hot. So I can say that to students, this room is rather hot. Yeah, I say to the students, this room is rather hot. So the first function of the sentence, this room is rather hot, it is to explain, to tell students about the temperature of the classroom. But the second function, it could be a command. It could be a request. I request students to turn on the air conditioner or open the window to make the temperature getting cold. So that what we call one form of language realizations may have multiple functions. In pragmatic, we know that a popular statement, you say something but you mean something else. It means that when you say something, the function of the sentence could have more than one, probably two or three functions. And the last slide, we talk about multimodality. What's definitions of multimodality? In more technologized, in technology, information technology. For example, we watch advertisement, we watch a movie. So the movie or the ads, advertisement, there are many mixture of discourse there. There is a spoken, and there is also a written, and there is also a picture or color or image in one text. So that's what we call multimodality. One text may consist of many kinds of discourses. In text, there is a spoken, and at the same time there is also a written, there is also an image, there is also color, and many more modes of communication. So multimodality means mixtures of modes, mixture of functions. Language has some functions that appear simultaneously. So merging some functions and modes of language when in use, for example, infotainment in television. Coming from the words information and entertainment as the new functions of discourse. So infotainment coming from the words of information and entertainment, it becomes one. When you are watching infotainment, you get information and you are also entertained by the TV program. So in infotainment, there is a word, spoken discourse, someone is talking there, and there is also an image. There is also a written discourse. So functions of language such as giving information, persuading, and making contact seldom occur in pure form. They always occur simultaneously to establish higher level of meaning. For example, whitening lotion ads not only giving information but also persuading viewers. When you watch an ads of whitening lotions, it is not only providing you information how to make your white becomes how to make your skin becomes whiter, but it also persuade you to buy. So that's what we call co-deployment or coexistence of the visual elements in written discourse. A picture is worth more than 1,000 words. It means that when you have a look of a picture, the picture can deliver many meanings, can means a lot for you compared to 1,000 words. Okay, so that's the end of our presentations about types of discourse, and I hope that you can find a new information and a new knowledge from this presentation, and can make you understand about one of the many phenomena in basic discourse analysis. Thank you.